1 in 10,000 children are born with a brain malformation known as Dandy-Walker syndrome. Dandy-Walker can cause enlargement of the skull, lack of muscle control, and other developmental challenges. More research is needed, but we do know that early therapy helps many live healthier, fuller lives. 1 in 10,000 may not seem like a lot unless your child is the one. Learn more, find help, and help others. Visit dandy-walker.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Talkin Baseball with Colangelo and Shaun Salehi right here on Big Train TV. This episode is brought to you by the Dandy-Walker Alliance, a proud partner of Big Train Baseball. Visit dandy-walker.org to learn more today. Today, we are so happy to be joined by two St. Mary's Gales. One is actually wearing a hat, my co-host Colangelo. We are joined by 2019 shortstop for the Bethesda Big Train, Gio Diaz, and the head coach of the St. Mary's College Gales, Greg Moore. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you all on today, and it should be a lot of fun as Gio is now a current roster part of the roster rather with the Nationals organization. He signed as an undrafted free agent this past summer, and we're excited to see his career take off going forward down the line. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you.
Should be a lot of fun. We're going to dive right into things. And I want to start off because there's a lot of connections here. It was my first year at Big Train last year. Gio's first year at Big Train last year. Sal and Greg, however, you guys have known each other for a very long time. Sal, I'd love you to start off the show by just diving into your relationship that you've had with Greg over the years.
Well, I think Greg, and it started back in 2005. I was in the kitchen at Povich Field. I remember it as it was yesterday, giving Greg a call about Andrew Smith and Johnny Noble and those players from San Francisco. And I was calling them about the following season. And he basically just said, "Hey, coach, whoever you want, you tell me. I appreciate what you're doing." And we just kind of built that bond from there. We have that success as a coach to coach. I can't have it without him and what he does with his program. And we share a lot of the same vision. Our goal is to set up these athletes for life, teach them life skills. So when they leave us, they become better young men. And a lot of the things that Greg probably doesn't even realize, because I'm a very good listener, but when we do talk about things and success, I believe it or not, Greg, I pay a lot of attention to you. And a lot of it is how do I form my team? I don't always get the best players. We get great players, don't get me wrong. But we get great kids. And I try to get to know the kids first and build that relationship to be open with the players where they're able to trust me when they come out here from all over the country. I want to look like I'm, for most of the time, organized and prepared. And most importantly, I want to be able to share my personal experiences that I've learned from Greg, that I've learned from Mark Kingston, that I've learned from Jeff Palumbo, whoever the coaches I grew up with, and be able to inspire these young kids. So, getting to know your players, what does Gio like to do? What are the goals Gio wants to do when he came out this past summer? And one of them was learn how to steal bases. What are we going to do? What tendencies are we looking on? Are we going our accounts? What are we trying to do? And, Gio will probably tell you right now, the most important thing in stealing a base is your first step. And we worked on that over and over again, with standing straight up, not extending out. So, all those things tied into just everything in my philosophy. And a lot of it came from Greg Moore. And I truly mean that from my heart. Greg's an upstanding guy. He's honest. He's very goal-oriented. He sets high expectations all the time for his players. And I've kind of listened to him over the years. And one of the things that stands out more, and we talk about this, and this is the honest truth. People think I'm crazy, that you can't make up a story like this. But I sent a kid that had a transfer from Virginia Tech out to him. And the first thing Greg wanted to know about is what kind of kid was he? What kind of family? But more important, let me get to know the kid. The rest of it, piece of cake. If he has the ability, which, walking back as I'm giggling to the third base box and he strikes out 15 in like 6 innings at 95. Greg didn't care about that. That was just an added plus. Greg cared about the kid. So when I talked to Greg and, and I kind of watch him model his behavior, like I watched Greg when he was down here at GW. I wanted to be in that dugout with him and just say, hey, man, I'm proud to wear that Cal Northridge coat. a jacket or hat and just watch him coach, how calm, how the players fed off of him. I'm very observant. You can just tell. And that's why he's been successful everywhere he goes. So I kind of model some of the things we do after what he started at San Francisco. So Greg, I should be thanking you more than anything, because that's the honest God truth. I know every year I'm going to get, and that's kind of where my recruiting philosophy has started. I know I'm going to get 4 guys from San Francisco, 4 guys from St. Mary's. And now, Valenzuela and I talk a lot too. I'm going to get 4 guys from Long Beach State. I know I'm getting great kids. And I know we developed that relationship. We're just an extension to their program. I think this summer you're allowed to take 8 from one university. I believe they changed it. If they do that next summer, I might just be all Long Beach State, St. Mary's, and San Francisco. Come on, let's go. Let's play. So that's kind of where I'm at. My relationship with Greg, we talk all the time. We've crossed paths with common friends, common coaches. And, Greg, thank you for all you've done for the Big Train and what you have done for me and my family. I'm blessed. So thank you.
Thank you, Sal. And, I don't know if there's a question after that from you, Shaun, but I want to go because
Go for
I
it.
think what's special in the summer is when you know what type of person you're sending your players to be around. Our players will ask us, how do I get placed in the summer? And I say, well, it's people first, it's competition second, and it's the location third. The Big Train has all 3, but what Sal didn't mention in that conversation was we talked while he was in his kitchen. I don't remember where I was, I think in the office. And I remember, and you know this, when you talk to somebody and they care deeply about not just the player off the field, Sal does, and that's very rare. But then you have somebody who can also talk the game, and he's evaluating skills, looking at what, like you said with Gio, what can we help this young guy get better at? He's got his goals. And then Sal wants to win too. And I really understood it full circle when our players would come back, and of course they would talk about Bethesda. Of course they would talk about the great crowds, but then they would just say, Sal's the man. And then you have to kind of push him. You say, well, what does that mean? And the way that translates from an 18, 19-year-old is he cares about us. He's going to hold us to the highest standard away from the field and the community. But when we get to the field, we're going to take our craft seriously. We're going to help this team win. We're going to learn how to win. I think Gio's a great example of that. I mean, he learned some things this summer that catapulted him into pro baseball that are going to stay with him for a long time. So, to sum that up, there's a reason the relationship is so long. It's the first person I think of when I say I've got a guy who needs to develop off the field, on the field. And heck, I remember, just the leadership in general. Bruce was picking up trash with me when we went to go see Evan Frederickson pitch that night. And here's the president, I believe, at that time, owner, and he's out there picking up trash. So I hope the people in your area appreciate the genuine organization that you have. It's the way baseball should be, headed by Sal.
Well, yeah, that's awesome, and that's great to hear you say. Gio, you've played summer baseball prior to your time at Big Train. You were with the Portland Pickles, which is a fantastic name, by the way. You, however, now are going from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast. What was going through your head when you were heading into Bethesda that last summer? You're going so far away from everything that you've known kind of in California. You grew up in Brentwood, you went to St. Mary's, and now you're traveling to the other side of the country. What was kind of the first things that were going through your head?
Well, the first thing that I heard from the Big Train, and the first thing I knew was I was going to have a really good coach with Sal. A lot of the players that played at Big Train from St. Mary's were higher-end players like Kevin Milam, Ken Waldachuk, Ty Madrigal. So Coach Sal was getting some good players from St. Mary's, and I knew that going into the Big Train that it was going to be a good summer for me, but like the way I thought about it, like the Big Train were kind of like the Yankees in that league where they would always win the championship. So I kind of knew Sal. The funny thing was the first game that I played, I don't think Coach Sal was there. Wow. So the whole time I kept hearing about Coach Sal, this, about Coach Sal, that. I was like, man, who is this guy? I talked to him over the phone, and he had that Southern accent almost. So it's kind of funny because, it was almost like a legendary coach I haven't met yet. And when I first met him, it was like, okay, I finally got to meet Coach Sal, and we're going to have a really good summer. So the first thing that pops up in my head when I hear Big Train now is Sal Colangelo, because he's like the most winningest coach there and, legendary coach. So it felt like the Yankees almost, playing for the Yankees, going to the Big Train.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you mentioned Sal and how, successful he has been in summer ball, specifically with the big train. He also was an incredibly dynamic player in his own right. He was a record base stealer during his time in high school and in college at Virginia Tech. And he transferred that knowledge clearly to you. We need to get this out of the way right now. You are currently the all-time stolen base leader in Cal Ripken League history, and you played one season. This isn't just like you have the single season record. You have the total career season or career record in Cal Ripken Collegiate Baseball League history. I remember as a broadcaster, my Alex Strain and myself with my partner, every single game, we would, as soon as Gio got on first base, it was like, all right, when is he going? Is he going on the 0-1? Is he going on the 1-1, the 2-1? And I mean, it was every single at bat. If you were on the base pass, you had to watch Gio number 19, whether he was going to go or not. Clearly, you and Sal had a special relationship when it came to talking about the art of base stealing. I'd love you to go into detail about that.
Well, yeah, I know Coach Sal knows about. I had a goal. I had like a number that I wanted to reach when I left St. Mary's my sophomore year, and that was 15. That was the number I wanted. I wanted 15, and I thought that was going to be like, man, that's going to be tough to get. But as soon as I got to Bethesda, I kind of shared with Coach Sal, opened up like, hey, these are kind of like my goals that I want to reach by the time summer ends. And one of those was the 15 stolen bases. And, to be honest, the stolen base thing wasn't my highest priority type thing going into the summer because I just wanted to have a good season and improve offensive and defensive. But stolen base was just kind of a number that I put out there on my notebook or my paper that I had with my dad that I made before I got out there. So the stolen base thing kind of came out of surprise. It just kind of came to a thing where it seemed like every time I was playing, they were giving me an opportunity to run. And, I don't know if it was an East Coast thing or West Coast thing where it's a little tougher, like in Portland and St. Mary's is really tough to get stolen bases. So I don't know what it was, but it was just something I was able to steal a lot of bags. It seemed like I didn't even realize I broke the record. I mean, I just had maybe 2 or 3 stolen bags every other game, and it just kind of piled up. But it's funny that the stolen base thing wasn't really a big objective of mine, really. It was kind of just improving my speed overall as an athlete.
Well,
Yeah, one of the things.
Go ahead, Sal.
One of the things with Gio too was, people talk about the speed of the game, that it's physical, it's this and that. But really, the speed of the game is really mental as well. How quick can you process things? And Gio was doing a great job. I had 2 dynamic middle infielders, Keith Torres from Sacramento State, shortstop, and Gio. And I didn't know who was playing where half the time. I'm going to be true transparent. I'd write the lineup, and before you know it, they're switching in between innings or every other game. That was the relationship and bond the 3 of us had. I mean, they were both dynamic at short or at second. But part of it was the speed of the game. And Gio really elevated that to the next level. And once again, for all the young athletes out there, it's not just the physical ability, it's also the mental ability when you're thinking about speed of the game. And Gio really, really accomplished that and took it back clearly to the fall with Coach Moore. And Coach Moore took him to the next level. And then he went into the spring season, and it was just lights out. And, unfortunately, this COVID thing cut him short. But, kudos to you, Gio, because you came to Bethesda with a goal and a vision to get better. And, sometimes we've had guys in the past where it's only summer ball. It's only summer ball. Well, I don't want that. It's about business. Winning is contagious. It carries over to your season, but more important, your skill set and your development is even more important. And that's what it's about. So if you develop, you work hard. I couldn't even tell you how many wins I had as a manager until COVID hit, and I had, Brian Haven, all these people, I had no idea. I don't even think of that. I just have so fun with you guys and give whatever I've learned back. So, the speed of the game was another big thing with Gio.
Gio, you mentioned one time in an interview with the Portland Pickles, actually back in 2018, that when it comes to stealing, there's a misconception that a lot of people think that you just have to be really fast. You have to have plus speed, and you just have to be able to blaze down to the next bag. But it really takes a lot more, and it's more of an art form than it is kind of a science. And I was hoping that, considering the success that you had in Bethesda, you could kind of break down what you meant by that.
Yeah, I mean, Listen, I'm not the fastest player. You know what I mean? I do believe I have right now major league influencing speed in terms of I could, score and use my legs to run. But a lot of it is just I played so many games so far that I kind of have an idea of counts, catchers. And the main thing is, like Coach Sal said, the first move. When I was at St. Mary's before that year, I thought stealing was just running and going to second base. But when I got with Coach Sal, it wasn't about speed. It wasn't about your 60 time. It wasn't about anything like that. It's about getting the first step. And for me, the first step was getting a good read off the pitcher. And if I could do that and I got a good jump, then the stolen base is pretty much there. So, yeah, it's not about speed really. But I guess as you go higher up the levels, people make it more about speed. But I think I have pretty good speed, and it's, at college level, it's pretty good, but I don't consider myself a super fast runner, So it's not about speed. It's about having a feel for the game and just getting the reps and not being afraid to take the bag. I mean, a lot of guys can get that, go to second base, but in their head, they're like, I'm a 4-hole hitter. I'm this weight. I'm this big. I can't run. But those are usually the guys that people don't really think could run. So why not take the bag, So it's a really tricky thing. Base running is a really different thing to think about, but I don't think it's really about speed. It's just the mindset of if it's there, I'm going to take it.
Absolutely. It's important to have that kind of mindset. And you clearly carried that mindset throughout the season given the success that you had all summer long. And you did a lot at the plate as well. I mean, you hit 317, 51 hits, 37 RBIs. You had a home run, and that's not including the one that you had in the All-Star game, which, if I remember correctly, was awesome to see you trot the bases. You ended up winning All-Star Game MVP. There's a lot of things, Gio, for you to look back on in 2019 with the Big Train that were memorable for you. But if you had to pick a favorite memory, whether it be on the field or in the dugout, what comes to mind?
I would say the championship because, I had an idea like, man, these guys win every year. But going in there, you're like, okay, we got to win again, So it's all about winning the championship, man. That's the key. Being able to get the trophy and give it to Coach Sal and say, yeah, another year where Big Train is the champions, because like I said, like going into that year and every year, I feel like Coach Sal feels the same way, but the Big Train are the champions, man. They're the Yankees. They've won the most championships in that Cal Ripken League. So if you don't win the championship, it's like, okay, it's kind of a down year, but you got to win the championship. So for me, that was the most memorable experience going into that night, winning the championship. And when it was all said and done, like, man, we won it. We won the championship. So there's nothing that beats that.
And Gio, if I recall, you had a big 2-out hit off the right side of the mound up right over second base. I can go every play. I remember everything. Yeah. And you sure did. And you're like, Coach, don't worry about this. We're tied up. No worries. I'm going to hit it right back up the middle. You visualize, and he sure did. Hit it right back up the middle, and boom, we drove him in. So, championships are great. Unfortunately, people, kind of look at you whether you win or lose, but to me, it's just the development and the memories and the relationships that I had created over the years. I mean, Gio's going to do big things from Hunter to, we got guys that are news anchors in New York, just all over. And to see these guys be so successful, I'm sure Greg deals with that all the time more than me. I tell people all the time, I got the greatest college summer baseball job or the greatest college baseball job because I get a lot of guys back year to year, but I get a new group every year, and I learn from them just as much as they learn from me, whether it's their culture, the diversity, the way they play. I got the best of the best. And you know what? At the end of the summer, I can send them back to Greg, and then I get a new group. Where Greg gets him for 3 or 4 more years. So Coach Lopez was talking about the other day. He called me and he was praying and just, he lost his son, and we were talking and he says, you know what? I thought about what you said. We have the greatest job in the summer to impact lives, develop, and we get them back and they come back. So, once again, thank you, Gio and Greg. I'm sure if you're welcome to add to that, but you probably feel the same as far as year to year.
I had the best job in the country, Sal. I guess we disagree.
Well, I'm coming out there then if that's the case.
One day. We've already got that plan in the
works. Ain't no question. Ain't no question.
Well, Coach Moore, there was a great summer by Gio. You were hired to take the helm at St. Mary's College in June of 2019. So that's while Gio is here in Bethesda. Gio then comes back to you in the fall, and you get to see this player that took a huge leap in summer ball and really got got a lot of eyes put on him, both at the next level and from college, other college players that he had to play against. What was your first impression of Gio when you got a chance to meet him?
We met by phone first, and I just appreciated his clarity for what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a professional, and a lot of guys do, but he backed it up with the methodical nature of how he went about it. Obviously, high goals. He understood the development process, and I didn't know that as well until later. And I'm listening to these stories about the summer, and it's more reinforcement of the big train, but it's also the development process for him. If he didn't go to the big train and learn to trust his athleticism on the bases, we wouldn't have had a conversation that we had about mid-fall, I think it was, Gio. He came and he said, Coach, I'm done changing my stance. I'm done trying to figure out how to make adjustments every time that I have a 1-for-6 or 1-for-9 skid. He said, I'm just going to trust my body. And the fun part for me in listening to the summer is, if not for one thing, if not for the right environment to grow that trust in his athleticism on the bases, I don't think he comes to that realization at the plate that I can also trust my hands, my approach. I just need to get in there and hit. And in the end, he was one of the best bat control guys in the country. So, how I met him, how I understood him, it's secondary to what I think of him now. I think he's fixed on trying to be the best baseball player he can be. And, it's cliche to say, but after he's done with baseball, he'll keep that. And it's just ingrained in him. Whatever he's going to do, he's going to be great at it, because he understands that Bethesda Big Train A leads to B in the middle of the fall, leads to C, one of the best hitters in the country this year. And that's just skill development. It's been fun to watch with him. He loves his craft.
Well, I mean, that is clear because, Gio, I'm going to be honest. I mean, as one of the interns with the Big Train, I got a chance to get along with you and several of the other players on the team last summer. And I remember when everybody went their separate ways at the end, we all tried to make sure we would keep in touch while following each other on social media, like us younger generation does now. And I couldn't help but notice when it came to every other player, it was their girlfriends, it was the beach, it was, it was game pictures, stuff like that. Gio was every single post, him fielding ground balls, him throwing it from short, him throwing it from second. It was always drills every single day. And, I mean, that clearly shows your love for the game, but it also shows your drive. And I'd love you to kind of go into where did you really have that first instilled in you that you were going to work just harder than everybody else you ever meet?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've always, like I always said, man, I've always been a baseball guy, baseball rat. I've always, I know there's always a saying like you live by the sword, die by the sword. That's how I'm going to be with baseball. It's kind of, I'm at the point where baseball is my life, and that's what I want to do when I'm done. Even when I'm done playing, I'm going to be a part of baseball. I always tell people that. So for me, I knew at a young age that this is the career path that I wanted to choose, and it was just something that I wanted to do. So for me, it doesn't really feel like a job or anything like that. It's just so much fun that the itch never goes away for me with baseball. So for me, it's going to be a lifelong thing. I'm going to die a baseball guy. Day I die, hopefully I'll be still playing, throwing the ball around, hitting the ball. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of guys, they say they like baseball, but when I say I like baseball, I like baseball. I'm all in on baseball. Doesn't matter what uniform I have on or what field or anything like that. I want to keep playing. I just love it that much. And that's just something, I think I'm lucky enough to have that realization at a young age of this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do, really. So it's not a thing where it's like, okay, I have to go out to the field and I have to do this. No, I want to go, I want to do that. It's just an itch that I don't think will ever go away with me.
Well, that's certainly a trait that I'm sure with two coaches on the call right now, they can both attest that is something that they look for in every player that is under them. Coach Moore, you transition now into the spring. What was the goal that you had with Gio? You mentioned that you had a conversation with him about him wanting to take that next step. going towards the next level at the professional baseball. What was your conversations with Gio in terms of what goals you set out for him this past spring?
I think Gio saw the lineup. He knew he was going to be the engine to our offense this year. So he needed to be able to hit in the leadoff spot and in the 3-hole. He needed to be able to be the same player in both of those spots, not try to make it look like it's supposed to look, but be Gio Diaz. So we talked a lot about staying within himself. And then there was some small stuff on defense he was working on, but I was really excited that he was finally at that mature point of just letting himself play. I knew he wasn't going to reach for something after 10 bad at-bats. We never saw those 10 bad at-bats in the spring. But it was almost push Gio to show up to the field with energy every day, which isn't hard, and then let him get after it, let him play, because he needed simplicity. He really had to push our offense this year, especially early on, and he did it. So it was kind of him setting the goals and us fanning the flame there.
And then Gio, I mean, it's clear that you were able to take that next step when you got into the box. You were a top 10 hardest player to strike out in the country. You had 2 strikeouts in this short season due to COVID-19, but still 13 games, 2 strikeouts. You batted .396, which is an absolute gaudy number. I mean, what was kind of your approach to the season into how you wanted to make sure that you were that engine for the Gale offense?
No, I had, I knew this was going to be a big year for me. I feel like everything was clicking. The first 2 years at St. Mary's, the first year I would say was probably the toughest year for me, freshman year, because physically I wasn't really used to having a set routine, a professional type workout, strength and conditioning routine for me. So freshman year was the toughest, and I would say sophomore year was when the numbers don't show sophomore year, but sophomore year was the year where I figured it out almost, like, okay, I got to stop comparing myself with kind of like the college guys that were near me and start looking at those professional players and try to become like a professional player. So once that sophomore year ended, it was like, okay, I kind of figured it out. And junior year was just, okay, go and play. And I knew the numbers were going to show up with all the work and just how I felt. I just felt really good about the year, and I knew it was going to be a big year for me.
Well, it was going to be a big year, and it still was, but unfortunately, life happens sometimes, and this pandemic that is currently pretty much engulfed the globe and put everything to a grinding halt. Sports are starting to kind of trickle back right now, but it had to have been a shock for both you and Coach Moore and college athletics all over the country. For either one of you to speak on this, I'd be happy to hear. Where were you when you heard the decision that, the baseball season was going to end up being at first postponed or, delayed and then eventually canceled?
You could go, Coach Moore.
We were watching the dominoes fall a little bit with some of the conference announcements, basketball. And when it became obvious that we were done, we got the word, we got the team in the dugout. And the thing I share with a lot of people is it was tough news, but these are young men. And the response I got was, all right, Coach, we'll keep this on a 1-week block. And I'm going to go home and take care of my siblings while my parents go to work. I mean, it was not woe is us. Let's just figure this out as we go. And that's the part that is hard, because in a macro, you have a lot of fear and worry, but the guys I'm dealing with, they're handling their business. Now, could they be better? Yeah. Get out more and hit more. But as far as the big picture, the perspective part, when that all went down, I was so impressed, almost motivated me that these guys can handle little things. They can handle big things, and they're still handling it now. Got to get better, though.
And then, Gio, it has to be, Frank, it has to be pretty frustrating for you, knowing that it was going to be a big year, knowing that it was a big year going so far for you in your junior season, and then things just come to a halt. I mean, what were the thoughts going through your mind when you realized that, this is the end of potentially your college career?
Yeah, when it all happened, it's tough to believe, because nothing has happened like this in either, in history. So for me, it was just like I couldn't really believe it, but I just had the mindset, okay, what's next? Like, what can we do now to keep moving on? And whether that was keep playing at St. Mary's, I would have done that without a heart, without any questions. But I just took it, took it day by day and just waited and see and keep training, every day, keep training. And eventually the opportunity came to take that next step and go professional. And I said, yeah, I think this is a good opportunity. I talked to Coach Moore a lot and my family, and I think that was the best opportunity. But no doubt I would have gone back and played another season at St. Mary's if that was the right thing for me to do. But like I said, this is kind of what I want to do, play professionally, take the next step, and that's what I did. So, but yeah, it was just a crazy situation that no one could have really predicted happening. And, hopefully this never happens again in the future, and, it could play out rest of the year, but very strange situation that happened.
And you mentioned the fact that you ended up going clearly to the professional level. We'll get to that right now. The draft was affected by this as well. Instead of the common 40-round draft, you ended up having it condensed to 5 rounds. So a lot of talented baseball players around the country were not going to be hearing their names called. So that had to have been an interesting process for you to go through, because you figure, I'm sure, that you're going to hear your name called in a normal 40-round draft, but these are extenuating circumstances. What were kind of your expectations going into this process? And then finally, when you end up signing on the very first day that free agents can be signed with the Nationals, what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, the whole draft thing, it got cut down to 5 rounds. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm just going to wait and see. Maybe something happens where I could possibly get a call in the 5th round. Some teams said, hey, you never know. Some guys might not take the opportunity. We'll go to the next guy on our board. So that didn't happen, obviously. And then I kind of had to make a decision of, okay, do I want to take the free agent opportunity that is going to be awarded to me possibly if it comes up after the draft? And that situation was kind of more of a thing of certain things had to be checked off. And at that point, the Nationals came with the opportunity, and it was the best opportunity, I think, for me and my family. And they were giving me everything that I kind of wanted on the checklist. So at that point, I was like, and it's just not the Nationals. I had a good relationship with the scout Brian Byrne. I've known him for a while too. So it had to be more of a trusting with the free agent signing and things like that, because this has never happened where, there's a free agent signing pool or whatever where, you have the opportunity to kind of choose what team you want to go to. So it was a very tricky and weird situation that happened that I really had to think about. I really had to sit down and think about, okay, do I really want to start my pro career now, or should I play another year at St. Mary's and then wait till next year's draft? But like I said, I think, the Nationals gave me a good opportunity, and everything that I wanted was there with that team. So I decided, yeah, let's sign with the Nationals.
Yeah, and I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt when that team just won a World Series. Sal, you have had plenty of guys under your tenure end up making it into professional baseball. This was clearly an interesting, different case because of the different circumstances surrounding it, but it has to be cool not only seeing him go through this process, come out on the other side still as a professional ball player, but he's coming back to your neck of the woods. He's not going, to the Padres seems like we see every Big Train player, or now the Tampa Bay Rays. He's coming to your neck of the woods where really you have a chance potentially to see him a lot more often. How exciting was that for you?
Oh, it's awesome. Every year the guys leave to get drafted. The Peanuts, who, this would have been their last year in my hometown right down the street. There was really only one player ever drafted by them, and that was Brennan Middleton, who actually lived with my brother Paul, who lives right next to the stadium for years. Now he's his marketing director and works for him. And he's actually getting ready to get married to one of our interns, Kelsey Coates, from way back when. But Brendan was a 10th round draft pick. I got to see him play in Prince William. Now they're moving about 20 minutes down 95 to Fredericksburg, beautiful stadium, Gio. It's awesome because I'll get an opportunity to go down there and watch a ball game. But to see him come back is pretty cool. I talked to Drew Strotman the other day, just a class act, another St. Mary's guy. He's excited, and we were just talking about, him climbing the ladder, playing with Logan Driscoll, who lives down the street from me, who just was traded from the Padres to the Devil Rays, and then Brandon Lau, who's a Virginia kid. And they're all just, intertwined with each other. You never know when they're going to run into each other. But just to see Gio down here, Gio knows how I feel about him. I don't need to tell him. And I'm excited because that'll give me something to do. I can get a chance to go watch him play and sit in the bleachers and just watch a baseball game. So, I was happy when I saw that. And Dio, thanks for being a class act like usual. Send me a text and let me know. That was awesome. So thank you.
Yeah.
And then Coach Moore, that has to also feel incredibly rewarding for you in your first season with St. Mary's. You have guys that are getting calls and going into the next level. And in Gio's case, you see somebody who took such a large leap and put in so much work to make that happen, and everything finally pays off for him. That has to be so rewarding for you as his coach.
It's rewarding. It's enjoyable to see a guy who's ready to go into pro baseball go in. We, as coaches, we want our players to be successful, whatever the next thing is. And our coaches asked me, well, what's Gio going to do? And I said, well, if he has a chance, he needs to go play. And he knew it, and that's why I knew it. So he was ready to go. He is ready. It's difficult when a guy's not ready, but he really wants to play. It's a lot of fun when they are ready and they get a chance like Gio did.
And Gio, one last question for you. What's next for you right now? Right now, minor league baseball, unfortunately, not happening. It's kind of a weird situation just with the player pools at the major league level and just trying to get guys experience at different levels. But, it's sports for the most part are still on hold. So how are you staying in shape and how are you preparing for the future?
Yeah, so right now I've been getting a lot of calls, like weekly check-ins with the organization from 2 or 3 people, and they're just been asking me, updating me on what's happening, and they sent me a strength and conditioning program. So that's something I'm kind of focusing on right now and tackling. But I've been going on the field training and just maintaining a workload still. But, right now it seems like there's no minor league season. So I'm hoping maybe, once MLB finishes their season, there might be some sort of fall league or instructional league where I'll then be sent to wherever the Nationals want me to go. But I'm just staying in contact with them and just listening to what they have to say and trusting that what they're giving me. And but yeah, I'm still maintaining, still training, and going to the field, hitting, taking my ground balls, flexibility, all that stuff. And still training like, almost like it's an off season at this point, but still kind of thinking like, man, maybe something will start up right away. So it's a mix of almost like an off season training, but also thinking, okay, I could probably play tomorrow if I have to. So it's a kind of it's a hybrid mix, I would say, of the training program. But yeah, I'm just staying in shape and trying to get in the best shape as I can physically, and just waiting to see, what they say, and just see what they say and staying updated with that.
Maybe we might even get him up to Puerto Rico in winter ball one day, right, Gio?
Yeah, that's one of my goals. I know me and Sal have been in contact with that. We have some people talking with us about that, but I think for that might be next year in the winter.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of my goals that I want to do, play in Puerto Rico. And but we'll see, and we'll just take it day by day.
Shaun, the baseball world, Shaun, is very, very small, and I'm on the field with Matt Thomas this summer, and we're just doing some extra work at the high school down the street here, beautiful place. And I get a call from a guy from Puerto Rico and says, I need to get in touch with Gio Diaz. Can you help me? And he puts pro guys in Puerto Rico in the wintertime after they play, go through their advisors and agents and all that. And it was just luckily he called me, and I, passed it on to Gio. I won't pass on a number until I call them first. But you never know what's going to happen. So, but, Gio's going to do good things. There's no question.
That's fantastic. I mean, I actually wasn't aware of that, so that we're definitely.
Well, they know we're family. I'll do whatever I can for them. I do it all the time. I have one coming up here for the FBI. Called me the other day. I hooked him up with somebody. He got in, Will Resnick. So that's just what I do. I tell Gio, that from day one. I tell you when he walk off the field, you pick up the phone and call me. I'm going to do whatever I can do to help you. I'm not just a normal summer coach that says, hey, thanks for coming. Have a great life.
That's why I appreciate Sal a lot, because there's not that many people I really know on the East Coast. I don't have a lot of family in the East Coast or coaches that I know, but it seems like Sal's very connected in the East Coast with baseball and just jobs in general. So, I'm looking forward to, once I start playing pro ball out there, definitely hanging out with them more and get to talk to them a lot more. And there's always a running joke that he doesn't let people at his house. So I want to be able to go inside his house and check it out. So that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the running joke. I remember when they all, Greg, we played right up the street, 4 miles, not even a mile away this summer, and everyone just wants to come over for a pool party. But Coach Sal's old now. Coach Sal's like, when the game's over, I'm out all day. I just want to go and sleep. So the joke is like, you got to come over to Sal's place, but you got to have a code to get into the gate to get into Sal's place. And I'm like, you guys, they're out of control. But they know they're welcome anytime. But it was pretty funny. In fact, I don't know if you remember Adam Berry and those guys. They actually helped me move. I looked at Adam. He was driving my tractor down the main highway instead of putting it in his truck and taking it. He's driving it down the main road. But, yeah, you always be welcome, Jay. Once you come up this way, you're welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds
I'm
like
waiting for Greg to come up with his family.
Yeah.
I was looking at the shelf back there thinking, I've actually kind of been in Sal's house now. It's an honor.
Yeah, this has been my view for the past 8 weeks. I know his office like the back of my hand, but we're trying to get to the other parts of the house.
It's my office for work. It's my office for a home. I mean, I got all my tech helmets up on the top there. Let me see if I can do it. Up top, but yeah, I mean, this is my life. I'm working from home as an AD. It drives me crazy, but it'll get better. We're all blessed and everyone's healthy and we'll learn a lot from it. I know it's taught me to slow down. It's taught me really to remember families, very important. I got a daughter going to college this year. I got another one in a couple of years with soccer. But I think you can spin it and take a lot of positive out of it. Like Greg said earlier, these young men are resilient. These high school kids are resilient. To see them crying and the stuff I saw this spring is unbelievable. But they're going to be just fine. They're actually 2020 class will be stronger than anybody else. And there's no question. You got to believe in that, because if you don't, then you just think that good things aren't going to happen. So.
Very well said. Well, guys, thank you so much. Gio, thank you so much. I remember when I first met you on, we were giving out uniforms on the first day of Big Train. You and I had a conversation. You said, man, I really am into sports broadcasting. Maybe one time I can get up into the booth and we can do an inning or something. Well, Sal never let him leave the field, so that never ended up being.
And he's right about me not meeting him first, because I was at graduation. I think it was an exhibition game, right, Gio?
Yeah, it was an exhibition game before the first season. The first game of the season, so he was gone.
I wasn't there because Gio didn't come until the next day after the other guys, I believe. But it was all good. But Greg and Gio, I appreciate you guys. Greg, I can't thank you enough. I mean, I hope these young high schoolers are listening to this out there in California, because I know if I was a young kid, I'd play for Greg. And you don't have to play in a Power 5 conference to be drafted. There's an opportunity here to see that. You don't have to play in a Power 5 conference to get a great education at St. Mary's, and you don't have to play in a Power 5 conference to find a family, a second home like Greg. So, Greg, I know you're going to do great things there. You're going to bring great people. I hope those kids realize getting a degree from St. Mary's and playing baseball at St. Mary's is no different than getting a degree from UCLA or USC. They're going to be successful. I've seen it. These young kids need to see it. I've seen it for 20 years. So, Greg, thank you, and Gio, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking care of these guys for so many years. It's
no problem. And I'm looking forward to those guys we got coming.
Yep. Got some more coming.
Yeah, we do.
Excited to see the continued pipeline from St. Mary's to Big Train. Guys, thank you all so much. And again, for all summer long, thank you so much for tuning in to Big Train TV. For Sal Colangelo, Gio Diaz, and Coach Greg Moore, I'm Shaun Salehi. We'll see you all next time.